Hey, it's Ed McGrath. Welcome to today's show. So jumping in, the markets are dumping. So I'm going to talk today about why Bitcoin's dumping, strategy, MSTR, AKA, and BMNR is dumping, Ethereum's dumping, the markets are dumping, the crypto markets are dumping. But why has the stock market been going up recently? So we're going to get into that. We'll talk about what I'm personally doing, and then I'm also going to talk about what one can do about it and what I'm doing about it. So no sugarcoating here. We are dropping. Bitcoin could go below $100,000. That's very real. BMNR sitting around 41, could go below 40. And I'm going to talk more about this in depth. So let's jump in today, okay? Not tax advice, not financial advice, not legal advice. So if you take a look right now, fear and greed, you got about 29 in the crypto market, and the stock market is at 34. But what's happening despite all that, the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ, the Dow Jones, they're posting all-time highs. So you look at the S&P's running, but the crypto market is not running. Now, one of the reasons lots of people are talking about this is, could it be some people are rotating out of Bitcoin and into AI plays, is some of the talks that are going on in the marketplace right now. But I'm going to show you exactly what's happening and statistically show you why there's a dump and why there's a drop here, okay? So everybody's afraid. Nobody understands. It's a very weird situation. But I'm going to share with you some things that give me stable operating moves that I do on a daily basis to outcreate this, okay? So let's talk about Bitcoin, because October, as we called it, it's now Rectober. It didn't go as planned. If you look at Bitcoin in October, it was down almost 4%, 3.69%, not good. And it's not looking good right now in November. And it's been a weird month for sure. And typically you have a good November in crypto. And right now we're not having a good October nor a good November. So the question is, will this time be different, or will we have a up November or a down November? So far it is down. But if you look at this, Bitcoin ETFs are down for the week so far. So we have an outflow on the ETFs. We're down 607 million, one of the worst weekly dips this quarter. But interestingly enough, October still ended strong. So Bitcoin ETFs still up big for October. But last week was not good. And so why are the ETF inflows still up in October, but overall Bitcoin is down? That's the question we're answering here today. So 3.61 billion in net inflows for the month, meaning even with that dip, the ETFs are still massively net positive in October. So this is very weird, because why the hell is the price dropping? We're going to get into that. So why isn't the price moving? Why is it going down? You got Sailor buying, you got ETFs buying, yet Bitcoin is just flat, right? So the answer is, it's long-term holders. And this is the answer. You have long-term holders are actually selling. All right. And this has been happening since July 1st. Long-term holders have sold about 810,000 Bitcoin, and their total holdings dropped from 15.5 million to 14.6 billion Bitcoin. So this is the reason you have ETF inflows strong in October, but then you have long-term holders are selling. And so now we have a drop in Bitcoin, because you have long-term holders that are selling out. So there's a massive redistribution. What's fascinating is that Bitcoin still managed to hit new all-time highs since that same period. So July, you had the long-term holder selling. They've been selling since July 1st. And over that time frame, we've still had Bitcoin go up and hit other all-time highs during that time frame, even with the long-term holder selling. Now we have the long-term holder selling. We have ETF inflows, which were positive in October, but we have the price going down. And one of the reasons is the long-term holder selling, okay? So long-term holders continue to sell and rotate. This is from Bitcoin Magazine Pro. If you look at this right now, either realizing profits or moving their Bitcoin into ETFs for safer insured storage. And if you look at history, 2014, 2018, 2021, and now 2025, whenever long-term holder supply dips this sharply, it either signals the start of a bear market or the final shakeout before the next big leg up, okay? So again, this is not tax advice, not financial advice. You have to decide what you're going to do and what you think is going to happen. I think it's real that we could see Bitcoin go below $100,000. I am not selling, okay? And I'm not saying that that's what you do. I'm not selling my Bitcoin. I'm not selling my MSTR. And I'm also trading my BMNR every day. And I'm going to show you why in just a minute. And I'm going to show you, and particularly for BMNR, which I trade daily, I've been here before. In August and September, BMNR hit 40. It went as low as $39. And I'm going to show you what I did when it was that low. And I'm doing the same thing right now. Pretty simple, okay? So I'm going to show you what I did and what I'm doing now as well. And again, I'm going to walk you through it. If you want to get access to what I'm doing, my book is down below, but more importantly, my trading strategy. So the last time BMNR was down, and I'll just remove this for a second. The last time BMNR was down at 40, this was in August. Go look at the charts. I picked up 3 weeks in a row, $22,000, $23,000, $18,000 worth of shares. So in a 3-week period, where it was in the low 40 range, I picked up another $60,000 worth of BMNR at that price point. I intend to do the same as it's dropping right now. So I trade it every single day. And so when the market's going down, I'm picking up shares. I'm going to show you the math on this right now. Now, this is my strategy. It's what I'm doing. I'm not saying this is what anybody else does. Some people are in a rough position right now with where they're at. I'm still up on my Bitcoin holdings. Remember, I bought in early. I'm still up on my strategy holdings, bought in at 78, 90, 100, etc. So I'm holding, and I'm continuing to hold through 2026. I'm not changing my strategy. You need to do what's best for you, do your research, but I'm going to show you what I'm doing and why I'm doing it because it makes sense to me. And if it's any consolation to make you like learn something new or feel better about it, I'm going to give you some statistics that make me feel better about it, make me stick to it. So I wanted to come in and face the music because when things are getting rough, I wanted to be a voice, not of like supreme optimism of what's happening. Like the facts are the facts. Like the Bitcoin is dumped, and I'm showing you exactly why, but I'm showing you what I'm doing about it. Okay. So we're going to get into that in just a second. All right. So, but this cycle, it's already happened 3 times. So when you look at these dips, these sharp dips, we're either going into a bear or there's a shakeout and we're going up. I don't think we're going into a bear market personally. Okay. If you look at Bitcoin, we've had highs of 126,000. We're down 20% from that. If you look at where it's been kind of floating around 115,000, 110,000 over the last several months, we're down about 12, 13% from that. So Bitcoin is, for me, I'm not like with my positions on Bitcoin, I'm not concerned about those. They go up and down. MSTR dips harder, BMNR dips harder. So what do I do about it to handle the dips with BMNR in particular, which I trade every day, okay? If you do want access, I'm just going to show it to you. Well, you can just go get it down below. The link is there. There's a video on how I trade. I would say this is a very important skill set to pick up because like people talk about buying the dip. The problem is with retail and consumers, we're in an institutional market right now. So what's happening is you have institutions loading in and institutions are buying the dip. They're getting in. Strategy continues to buy. I'm going to show you some statistics about the number of nations that are mining Bitcoin. There's 12 nations that are mining Bitcoin right now. This is an institutional game right now. And it's switching from being a retail game to an institutional game. So the retail holders, a lot are getting shaken out. I'm not getting shaken out. Bitcoin could drop even more. It can go below $100,000. I'm still not getting shaken out, okay? When Bitcoin dropped down to 70,000, when the Trump tariffs announced in April, I didn't sell Bitcoin, okay? So ultimately, like I'm sticking to my strategy. I believe we're going to go into 2026, and there could be positive news potentially in the last month and a half here. If you watched Tom Lee on the news the other night, he was talking about BMNR and he was talking about Bitcoin. And he was talking about the S&P 500. The S&P 500 has been booming. The S&P 500 is 6,800. He thinks the S&P 500 could hit 7,000 or 7,500 by the end of the year. And he's still holding strong, Tom Lee. This is not my viewpoint, but he still thinks by the end of the year, Bitcoin could go over $150,000. And he said even $200,000. Not my viewpoint at all, but you have people who are holding strong to these viewpoints, which is interesting to see that they still think there's potential for moves in the late fourth quarter now of this year and certainly into 2026. Me personally, I have my own viewpoint, which is it's going to be rocky. It's going to continue to be rocky maybe for the next couple weeks. We may get some movement in November. I think we could get some movement in December. Quantitative tightening is happening, is being released in December. So December 1st, we will have quantitative tightening eased up now, which basically means the Fed that's been holding a whole bunch of money and not allowing it to circulate into supply will then circulate that money into supply, that supply into circulation so that there will be more money in the economy. and there will be more loans that will be sent out. Interest rates will have already been cut. We may get another interest rate cut in December, which the polls are leaning towards an interest rate cut, which would hopefully be good at that time for crypto, Bitcoin, etc. But again, not sugarcoating, probably going to be choppy for the next couple of weeks. Bitcoin could go lower. I'm preparing for a BMNR to go below 40. And again, back in August and September, it touched 39. I remember that, but I'm going to show you what I'm doing and why I'm doing it when it dips in just a second here, okay? How am I picking up shares in the dip? That's the big thing. And why do I continue to stick to this strategy of investing in Bitcoin, BMNR, and MSTR, okay? So now you see, like, there's all kinds of things that are happening. I'm going to give you the macro and then just go down the micro of what I'm doing. All kinds of things are happening in the marketplace. Norway flip-flops back to Bitcoin. They previously banned all employees from owning Bitcoin. Now they're like, okay, we're going to offer Bitcoin ETFs. So institutions are starting to pour in this game. It's an institutional game now. Retail is getting shaken out, man. If it's an institutional game and that's where the money's going and institutions are layering in, I'm staying in the game, okay? So you look at what's happening with them. Full 180-degree reversal. Now, every major Western bank, JP Morgan, Fidelia, Nordea, is offering Bitcoin exposure to clients. These were skeptics. They're now on board, okay? Institutional adoption isn't coming. It's already here. If you didn't watch my previous videos, the number of companies that are building on the blockchain right now, from Fidelity to JP Morgan to BlackRock, that's already on the blockchain. The people are going onto the blockchain. Crypto is not going away, okay? If we move into a bearish cycle and it starts to drop, I'm just holding on to my strategy and holding on to my Bitcoin for the next several years. I'm holding on to my Bitcoin no matter what. Strategy, I'm up in profit still, but I'm still holding on to it. So either way, I know where crypto is going. I know where institutional adoption is going. So the future is good. The present is not, okay? 12 nations now are mining Bitcoin in a big way. If you look at the different nations, you've got Bhutan in here. You've got El Salvador. Back in 2020, it was only 2 countries. And now, fast forward 2025, it's jumped to 12. And so when you look at these numbers, Kenya, Argentina, Ethiopia, even France, Japan, mining Bitcoin, all right? These aren't small operations. These are state-sponsored mining programs that are happening because it's the ultimate way to monetize surplus energy, and that's what they're doing. So yeah, Bitcoin's stuck for now. Could go below 100,000. Brace yourselves for below 100,000. If you own BMNR, brace yourselves for below 40. We could go even in the mid-30s in BMNR. We're entering what's supposed to be Moonvember. It's not happening right now. Strategy continues to buy 400 Bitcoin, and they continue to stack. So institutions are continuing to stack. ETFs had positive inflows in October, but long-term holders are selling, and that is the basic breakdown. Now, what am I doing? Why am I continuing to hold? A lot of people will get in the game and be like, this is crazy. You're still holding. You're doing whatever. This is my personal goal. And this is what I'm doing. Here is why. And this is probably the most important spreadsheet I will share with you. I broke this down last night. This is out of my book. And I'm just gonna show you why. I had my team start to create slides on this and I couldn't wait. And I wanted to show you this. Okay. This is why I am literally in crypto. Okay. And this is it. And if you get this, to me, this is everything that has to do with why one would not be in traditional finance and why one would be invested for the long term in things like Bitcoin. When I say one, I mean me, because this is not financial advice, but let's just go look at this, okay? If you take a look at this chart, this is super important to understand. And then afterwards, I'm going to show you last time when BMNR, because I trade it, was down in the 40s, I picked up 22,000, 18,000, 23,000, 3 weeks in a row, a total of 60,000 of shares when it was like $60,000 worth of shares when it was trading at 42, 40, 41, okay? So I'm going to show you how I pick up shares at a low price as well, but getting this is fundamentally super important here, okay? So take a look at this, all right? So right here, if you look at this spreadsheet, okay, the first thing to look at is when you're looking at making investments, all right, the first drag on your investment is CPI. So you've got inflation, which is a drag at 3%. I can make it bigger here too and see if this fills up the screen, okay? So you have the first drag you have is CPI. You've got inflation at 3%. So when you're making an investment and you look at the choice between traditional finance or the choice between crypto, such as Bitcoin, such as Ethereum, stocks that own crypto in their treasury, like BMNR and MSTR. Here's the two worlds, all right? The story that one has been sold to stay in traditional finance and stay safe and get 12% rates of return in the stock market is that's what's going to get you ahead, but it's not going to get you ahead. And here is exactly why. And this is one of the most important fundamental things that I've ever researched and discovered in investing. And it's why I don't do traditional finance. Okay. So CPI, 3%. All right. That's what's reported on the news, right? That's consumption of everyday goods and services. So if you're getting a 10% return and you minus out 3% inflation, you're at 7%. Housing and asset inflation. Okay. The thing that you're told is that the CPI includes shelter. It includes, rents, and that it's accounted for in the CPI. The increase in home values, the value of homes, is not included in the CPI. So that means that you have to take into account, if you buy a home or you want to buy a home, that housing and asset inflation is a real thing. So that would mean that if houses go up by 5% on average, but the report is that in inflation and in CPI, it's only 3% overall, then that would mean that, CPI is saying, okay, inflation is only 3% for you. When you go out into the economy and you buy goods and services and you want to go buy a house, and when you go to the grocery store and when you go buy a car, inflation is only 3%. It's not only 3%. Okay? It's not only 3%. And the truth is, it's 3% inflation plus housing and asset inflation, where you have to tack in at least another 2%. Because if I want to go buy a house and houses go up by 5% on average every single year, that means that there's a drag on my investments. And so for housing and asset inflation, I put in another 2% to say it's about a 5% drag on your money. 3% CPI, 2% housing and asset inflation. Okay? So that is a drag on your money. Now, that's an increase in the value of the house, right? The next thing you need to look at is when you have mortgage interest. Typically, mortgage interest has averaged over the last couple decades around 7%. So when you want to go buy a house and you have an increase in the cost of the house that goes up by 5% on average per year, and then you're paying financing costs on it, which are 7%, that's another drag on your wealth. So I put the cost of financing in here for another 5%. Okay, another 5%. Make sense? So this is the real drag on your investments. Okay, if you're just joining us, this is the reason why I don't do traditional investments. I don't do traditional stocks. I don't just sit there and put my money in the stock market and go, I hope I get 12% over the long run. And so CPI, which is inflation they report on the news, 3%, housing and asset inflation, 2%, mortgage and interest costs that you're paying on the financing of a house, add in another 5%. And then you got to account on you got to take into account on your investments, taxes of 2%. Because if I make 10% on investment and I got to pay 20% tax, that's 2%. Now, if you own a house, you got to take into account insurance and property taxes. That could be another 2% drag on your wealth. And ultimately, what you're looking at here is then you also have to take into account management fees as well. So if you have a financial advisor or somebody who's actually managing your money, in many 401k plans, you have a 1% management fee. You got fund fees that exist in there. So many people don't even know that they have a 1% management fee that then is dragging and creating a drag on their rates of return and on their wealth. And then finally, you have currency debasement. So when you have currency debasement, that means the printing of money, that's happening every single year, 6.5% every year for the last 100 years, is another 1% drag on your wealth. So if you look at this, the total drag on an average person's wealth or a typical person's wealth over the course of a year is 15% drag on your wealth. All right, now you could sit here and say, well, I don't own a house, or I don't want to buy a house, because owning a house or buying a house is a big drag on one's wealth, because of the financing costs and the property tax costs and all of that. But the real drag on somebody's wealth is 15 to 16%, guys. So that just shows you that to get ahead, one needs to make 15 to 16% just to keep your head above water, because of all these factors that I just shared. All right. So when you look at traditional finance and say one says, okay, invest in the market, get 12% over the long run, 3% inflation, 2% for housing and asset inflation. If you have mortgage interest on that house that you bought, there's more drag on it of 5%. If you have taxes, it's another drag of 2%. You have insurance and property taxes, another drag. You got management and investment fees, it's another drag on your wealth. You got currency debasement of 1%. 6.5% per year, but the total effect on your household income, let's call it about 1%. So you have to earn 15% just to get ahead, just to break even. For those people who desire to own homes in the future. If you didn't want to own a home, then your drag on your wealth is still 10, 11, 12%. So either way, people who own homes, the drag on their wealth is 15 to 16% per year. And then you have the somebody who wants to, like, I want to go buy a home. I want to, like, I got to go buy a home. Well, you have to take into account all those costs. So it's 15 to 16% drag on the wealth. And then when you look at potentially for someone who is, when you have somebody who's then is in a position where, so I might have to go to another call here. But if you have somebody who's in a position who doesn't want to buy a house, it's still a 12% drag on your wealth. So that's the bottom line of what's actually happening in the market. Hold on one second, everyone. Okay. And then we're going to get into Sorry, it was my team. Okay. So when you're looking at this, you have to make 15% to get ahead in the marketplace. And that's the bottom line. So the choice is, if you then look, it's kind of funny because you then look at the actual returns on the S&P 500 over the last decade, it's about 15%. So how funny is it that to get ahead, if I want to buy a house, if I live in this world and I pay taxes, if I have CPI, which is inflation of 3%, if I have management fees on my money with a financial advisor, if I have property taxes on my property, and then you would take into account credit card debt. If I have credit card debt on car loans, financing of a house, interest payments on my credit cards, if I take into account all of that, literally it's a 15% drag on my wealth. So to get ahead, I got to be earning 16, 17, 18, 19, 20% in the market to get ahead of the real cost of the drag on your wealth in life. So that's why when I look at traditional finance, it is as a big sign that just says doesn't work. And so now when I start to look at going into positions like Bitcoin or MSTR, and I invest in these types of assets where, Bitcoin I've been invested in since 2018. I'm in it for the long run. I bought, again, full disclaimer, $3,000 price points, $7,000, $9,000, $15,000, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $60,000, and in 2023 bought at $33,000. And then MSTR, same, bought in early on that. So I hold these assets. Now BMNR is a new asset that I bought into. And so when you look at BMNR that has dropped for me, how do I then, in this marketplace, pick up more shares of BMNR? So I'm going to show you this right now and give you an example of how I'm taking advantage of the downturn in BMNR right now. Okay. Doesn't mean I'm not losing money on paper, but I'm going to show you how I'm making it up. Okay. So right now, if we look here and we go down to a scenario, so let's put an example of, say, somebody invested in the stock BMNR $250,000. This is a hypothetical example, okay? Let's say somebody bought into BMNR $250,000 at a $50 per share price point, okay? And if you look at $50 per share, that would be $250,000, $50 per share, that would be 5,000 shares. This is kind of a typo here, so we'll get rid of this. But that would be 5,000 shares here, okay? Again, I wanted my team to put this on a slideshow, but I was excited putting this together last night because this is what I do, okay? So now if BMNR drops to 40, which if you look right now, it's real that the stock might be at $40. So if BMNR drops at 40, see where it's at right now. It's at $41. It's at $40.74. Okay. I'm about to get out on a trade on a profit here. Okay. So if you look at BMNR and it drops to 40, which is very real because it's $40.76. And let's say you bought in at $250,000. Now your share, it's dropped to 40. You lost 20%. So on paper, you lose $50,000. Okay. So paper, $50,000, done. Lost. Buy in BMNR, $50, drops to $40, 20% drop. If I had $250,000 in, I just lost $50,000 on paper. This is what happened to me back in August, okay, and September, right? Now, during August and September, I was buying, I was selling and then buying. So I was trading. So BMNR would go up a little bit. I'd sell out. It would drop. I would buy back. So in August, there were 3 weeks in a row. And by the way, I've been profitable the last 15 out of 16 weeks. So I'm not like showing you my best 3 weeks. Like I've been profitable the last 15 out of 16 weeks trading BMNR. Okay. So now I bought $60,000 worth of shares of BMNR around $40 each. Okay. Let's just say that around $40. All right. For me, the exact numbers were when I was trading BMNR, when it was down to $40 last time, I had a week of around $22,000, $18,000, and $23,000 of additional shares that I bought around 42, 43, 40 price point. Okay. So again, scenario is BMNR is at $50, drops to 40, lose $50,000 on paper. But when trading, like I do, during that 3-week period or 4-week period, I picked up a 3-week period. I picked up another $60,000 worth of BMNR shares. So now, let's say the starting position of BMNR was $5,000 here, which you see here. 5,000 shares, sorry. 5,000 shares was the starting position. But at the bottom, I picked up more BMNR shares, which 1,500 shares. So now my total shares of BMNR is $6,500. So the point is, if you look at this when trading, and again, like there's philosophies of like, there's 3 ways to do it. 1, you get the hell out of your position. You're like, I don't believe in this anymore. I'm gone. And that's very real for people. 2, it's not real for me at all in the slightest bit. 2, you buy the dip and you take money out of your own pocket and you buy the dip. Or 3, you trade like I do. And instead of taking money out of my own pocket, I just sell high, buy low, sell high, buy low. And I pick up more shares. And so this is what I did last time BMNR dropped to $42, $43, $40. It's happening again. Last time I picked up over that time frame, I picked up way more than $60,000 worth of shares. This was just a 3-week period. And now, during that 3-week period, I picked up approximately 1,500 more shares. Make sense? So now what happens? So this is the difference, right? This is the difference. Like if one is picking up shares at a low point. So now let's say BMNR eventually goes to $80. For me, that's a real take profit zone when it eventually goes back up to $80. Okay. I will hold on to BMNR until that happens. All right. So if I didn't trade, so now remember, like if BMNR now goes back up to it goes up to $80 in the future. All right. I'm saying sometime maybe in 2026, this happens. All right. Now my total value, the $250,000 starting position that I had, remember, I started with $250,000 of BMNR. Okay. I actually hold more than that, but I'm just giving you a scenario. So I started with 250 and so it drops and I lose 50,000 on paper because it goes down to $40 per share. But because I'm picking up those extra shares trading, now when BMNR goes up to $80, which is going to be some take profit zone for me, my position of 250,000 that dropped to 50,000 went all the way down to 200,000. When it rebounds in the future, I will have $520,000 from that position. Compared to if I didn't trade, I'll just still have my same 5,000 shares. BMNR goes one day up to $80 and I'm sitting at 400 grand. So by trading at the bottom, this is the moral of the story, okay? By trading at the bottom, because I bought an extra $60,000 at the bottom trading last time this happened with BMNR, I'm going to have $120,000 more in the future. Make sense? I'm going to have $120,000 more in the future as a result of doing that. Also, the fact that I'm trading at the bottom with BMNR and I'm picking up more shares, many people, when it goes from $50 to $40 like it is now, people are losing 20% because I'm trading. I'm not losing to that magnitude. I may have some losses on paper, but I'm not losing to that degree. So the whole point of what I'm sharing here, and again, if you want my trading video, just go down below. You can get it for free, and you can I'll show you exactly what I'm doing, how I'm trading BMNR, and how I actually, in situations like this, I freak out a little bit too, like you guys, because nobody likes to see it going down. But in the freak out moments, it's how does one become cause over the marketplace? Okay. And you've heard it many times before. Like people will say, buy the dip, buy the dip, buy the dip, right? Buy the dip, buy the dip. Well, I'm not buying the dip. I'm trading the dip. So if I was in a situation where I was like, I'm so afraid I don't have any more money to put into the stock. And like, I'm out of money. The economy's not good. Loans are too expensive. Like wages are going down. I don't have any more money to buy the BMNR stock, even though I want to buy the dip. I'm trading and buying the dip, guys. And that's the point. All right. So picking up shares, like, again, this is a hypothetical scenario of somebody who bought in at $250,000. But the real scenario of this is that for me, the real data is during the last dip of BMNR down to $40, $42 for 3 straight weeks, I picked up a total of $60,000 total, not $60,000 in 1 week, $60,000 total of more shares during that 3-week low. And then as it started to go up to 44, 46, I started picking up more shares, 48, 50, more shares, 52, 54, more shares. But nothing played out better for me than buying the dip, because I was picking up way more shares, not buying the dip, trading the dip, way more shares when it was lower. Because if I have $20,000 that I pick up of shares at $42, that's better than $20,000 at $60. Make sense? Price point. So that's how I'm playing the game. And my personal belief, and the reason I did this was because after the last bull run, when we saw Bitcoin go all the way up and then drop all the way down, my basic thing was like, hey, when things are going down, I want to be able to trade and still pick up shares. And this is why I've turned on the heat of like really going into trading full steam, like perfecting my system and doing it. And in perfecting a system, it doesn't mean that you don't lose. It just means I win way more than I lose because I'm profitable the last 15 out of 16 weeks trading. Okay. And profitable for me means I'm picking up more shares of BMNR every single week. Okay. So that's what I'm doing. But I still hold BMNR long-term. So when the stock drops, I still suffer the same drops that you do. When it goes from 60 down to 50, down to 40, the difference is I'm trading all the way down and I'm picking up more and more and more shares. Make sense? So it softens the blow for me. When the BMNR goes back up, which I believe will happen sometime in the future, which is why I'm holding the stock, I will have way more gains as a result of buying the dip through trading, not money out of my pocket. And that's the gist. Okay. So that's the basic on it. Just recap for those of you who are joining us, because I like to recap it when I do it live. The recap's really simple. I'll give you the 90-second recap. Number one, and let's see where the stock is right now, because I'm about to trade out of it. Okay, got it. So right now, right now, here's the recap. So number one, first and foremost, long-term holders are selling, and that's the reason why you see Bitcoin dropping right now, is my basic idea on it. Okay. You should do your own research on it. Go listen to other people, but long-term holders are definitely selling. Number one. Number two, ETF inflows were up in October. It had a horrible week last week, but overall up positive, many billions of dollars. So you have ETF inflows going up, but long-term holders selling. Long-term holders have been selling since July 1st. Okay. You have institutional adoption coming in. This is no longer a retail game. This is an institutional game. The facts are there in the writing by the fact that institutions are moving onto the blockchain. Go look at Ethereum. Look at the number of players that are on Ethereum, from BlackRock to PayPal to JP Morgan to tons of other companies that are building on Ethereum. So there's institutional adoption coming in, and that's what's happening as well. So for the long-term stability of crypto, the future looks good. Short-term, it looks like crap. Okay. Second thing. With what's happening in the marketplace right now, it is real. And I don't know where Bitcoin's right now, but at the beginning of this video, I said it's real that Bitcoin could go below 100,000. Bitcoin was at about 102,700 when we started. It's real that it could go below 100,000, and like we could expect that for sure. And it's happening right now, of trending in that direction. Secondly, I said at the beginning of this video, it's real that BMNR could go below 40. It's at $40.42 right now. This is not the first time this has happened with BMNR. Okay. If 3.5 months ago when I bought in, the stock was up at 60 something dollars. It went all the way down to 40 and it touched $39 price point. Right. The moral of this conversation today is very simple, that I am still trading BMNR at the bottom. That's it. All right. And last time it hit the bottom in August, I was trading it and I picked up a lot of shares at $40 price point, 41, 42. So I don't buy the dip, I trade the dip. And that's how I become cause over this situation where nobody likes to see it go down. It sucks. It's the crappers. But at the end of the day, I'm trading and picking up shares at a very, very low price point. So one day when it does rebound, which I expect to happen, I will be heavily in the money. Okay. And then finally, I went over traditional finance. If you look at traditional finance, if you look at the scenario that I went over earlier, people who want to own homes, who want to own property, who want to own assets, ultimately to get ahead in today's world, you have to make 15% in the stock market to just keep your head above water. That's it. Funny enough, over the last decade, the S&P 500 has done 15%. So if you're invested in the S&P 500 and you're somebody who wants to own a home, wants to own property, if you're somebody who lives in this world who's subject to inflation, if you're subject to taxes, if you have money invested with managers and you have management fees, if you have a house and you have property taxes, if you have credit card debt, if you have car loans, you live in this world, to get ahead, it's 15%. That's the math that I went through. So traditional finance is a no-win game. And this is a very new game in the world of crypto. It's a very tough game to be in when things go down. So I'm like, my acknowledgement and my understanding of what's happening, of how it feels mentally, of how it feels emotionally for everybody, I totally get it. It sucks. Nobody likes to see it, especially when you're expecting that October and November were going to be the run. Okay. But this is the game. I've been in this game for going on almost 8 years now with crypto. And I've lived through it, and this is the game. And so, to be cause over it, I look at plan A, which is traditional finance, and you sit in there and you bleed a slow death and you barely get your head above water. And if you were in the S&P 500 for the last decade, you make 0%. And if you want to check the numbers, 3% inflation is not real. It's not real. It's not real. It's not real. Anybody who wants to own a house, you have asset inflation. Anybody who's got management fees in your portfolio, a fund manager's 401k, take 1% out for that. Anybody who lives in a world you have taxes, if you're getting 10% in the market, take 2% out, 20% out, that's 2% on top of that. Credit card debt, car loans, take that percentage out. You got to look at the rate of return on all of your money. 10, 15% does not get you anywhere. So I choose to play the game of volatility, because when the volatility works over the long run, the time horizons for Bitcoin, the time horizons for MSTR, when we're sitting in a situation like this, the time horizon is 4 or 5 year periods. So I'm in it for the long haul. Again, I do take profits when things start winning. But right now, if you look at this market, it's like, okay, I'm sitting back. I'm holding on to my Bitcoin. I'm going to watch Bitcoin go down below 100,000. Maybe we touch 98, maybe 97, maybe 95. And I'm just preparing for what's going to happen. And then I'm also holding in through 2026. Okay. So I hope it serves you. I just wanted to share this with you. If you want my trading video, I would suggest you go get it. It's going to teach you what I'm doing so that when the market drops, I can actually prepare for the next leg up by trading and picking up lots of shares. All right. Hope this serves you guys. I'm not selling. The only time I sell right now with what I'm doing with BMNR is just trading it. I trade it. Okay. I sell high, I buy back low. All right. So I hope you guys have a great rest of the day. Go watch the rest of the video. It shows you what's going on in the market if you missed it. And you can just play it from the beginning. And I think it'll just give you data on what's happening and also why I personally believe that Bitcoin is still the right choice. I personally believe that MSTR is still the right choice. And again, we could ride MSTR down to 230 like we did, or 200 like we did during the April tariffs. I'm still holding it. Okay. I'll talk to you guys soon. Stay well. Have a good rest of the day.